This video reviews the solution to the lab creating a function which paginates rows of data. We start by opening the file products.php, which is in htdocs suites complete. The first thing we need to do is to define a function display products. It's very important to not forget the opening and closing braces. The next thing is to locate the block of code which we developed previously to display products. As you will recall, it was in the form of a for each loop, which was embedded inside the UL tags. We're going to cut this and paste it into our new function. We now need to perform some cleanup. First of all, we need to get rid of the PHP open and close tags. Next, we need to designate a variable which is going to hold the concatenated HTML and then return the HTML all at one time. The variable that we can use for this purpose is $output. We initialize it by setting it first to an empty string. We can then use the concatenate operator to append content to the variable, which can then be returned. So as you can see, we are using the concatenate equal operator to add the li tag to the variable. We need to do this for the remaining lines of code. We also have to make sure that we do not forget to return the value of $output, otherwise the function will have no effect whatsoever. The next thing we need to do is to handle the embedded variable, because as you can see now, it will not be recognized. Furthermore, we have an embedded PHP tag which needs to be gotten rid of. The way we do this is we break up the string by ending it here. We add a concatenate operator, and we remove the opening tag and the echo statement. We've now isolated the variable $productsx link. We need to do the same thing for the semicolon and the closing PHP tag. So we substitute a concatenate character and we reopen the string. We'll need to do the same thing then for the following PHP echo. So as you can see, this line is now properly formatted. However, it's rather long, so we will break up the line by moving it onto multiple lines. We will then align the lines on the concatenate operator so that it's very clear what's happening. It's very important to remember that you need to make your PHP scripts readable, because 6 months down the road, you may not remember exactly what you were doing with this particular function. We now need to do the same thing with this line, which displays the title as well. We are now in a position to take care of the offset and the page number. So we need to introduce a couple parameters. The page number, the lines per page. We will then need to calculate the offset inside the function. We can now pass the parameters to the function. So we now have the page number, the lines per page, the maximum products, and the products array itself coming into the function. As you may recall, if we do not pass the parameters into the function, the variables inside the function are considered local to that function. Accordingly, we'll never see the products. We can now adjust the for loop to loop only lines per page number of times. However, this will result in the same 6 products being displayed every single time. Accordingly, we'll need to introduce an offset and assign that to the key so that we'll get a varying number of products each time. So we define the offset as the page number times the number of lines per page. We can then add the offset to the key inside the array, which will give us the index $x plus the offset. There is a problem, however. What if for some reason the page number goes past the end of the array? This would result in an error message, which would not only be unsightly, but it would confuse the users and give potential attackers a source of unwanted information. So a very simple safety measure would be to do a check inside the for loop to see if the key, which is $x plus the offset, goes past max products, in which case we want to break. you'll notice that we checked to see if it was greater than or equal to. The reason for that is that if it were equal to max products, as you will recall from this line, is the count of the array, and the count of the array will be 1 past the end because the array starts with 0. We now need to insert a call to the function inside the lines where the code previously existed. As you may recall, it was between the UL tags. So what we'll need to do then is to introduce a PHP tag which echoes the return value of the function. So far so good. However, as you will recall, we have our previous and next links, which allow us to move to the next or the previous page. So far, we have failed to take that into account. So as it stands right now, we will always get the same 6 products on the screen. So what we need to do is we need to introduce a parameter. The parameter will represent the previous and the next page number. So moving back up, we're going to introduce $_get. $_get is a PHP superglobal which takes information from the URL. We are using the ternary operator, which checks to see if the page parameter is set. If so, it retrieves the page parameter but forces it to an int. The reason why we need to force it to an int is that this information is originating from outside the application and is therefore considered suspect. If for some reason the parameter contained unwanted characters, by forcing it to int, it would become, in the worst case, a value of 0. So if the parameter is set, we retrieve it as an integer. Otherwise, we retrieve a value of 0. Now, the previous page, we check to see if the page is 0. If so, the value of 0 is assigned to previous. Otherwise, we assign page -1. The next is assigned a value of page +1. We can then incorporate previous and next into our links. The way we do this is by calling products.php with a parameter. The question mark indicates that what follows is a parameter. We then give it the parameter of page equal. We then use an embedded PHP tag to echo the value for previous. We can then do the same thing for next. And so as you can see, we now have products.php with a parameter of page, previous. We have products.php, a parameter of page, and next. We save the file. We can then go to the browser and test our results. So from the main page, we go to products, and now we test next. As you can see, we're cycling through the products, and then previous. So again, you can see we're going through the products. And then, of course, when we come to the beginning, it stops. When we get to the end, it does a break statement. And this concludes our review of the solution to the lab, creating a function which paginates rows of data.